Good morning, everybody. I'm going to take another video for today's lesson, 6.2 to 6.4 primary, excuse me, trig ratios. So we're going to do the same thing as we did yesterday for the most part, but now instead of finding a side length, we're going to be looking for the angle measure, okay? So the first example is pretty straightforward. You're just entering that into your calculator and evaluating it to 4 decimal places. So for some of you, it will depend on your calculator, but for some, you'll have to do sin 37 in your calculator and then equals. But for some people, you're gonna have to do 37 first and then press your sin button and the answer will automatically pop up. So you're gonna have to, like I said in the previous lesson, figure out how your calculator needs to work. And you wanna make sure you're using the same calculator throughout all of your trig stuff, because when it comes time for the test or the quiz, you don't wanna be using a new calculator for the first time because it can significantly change your answers. The other thing you need to make sure of is that your calculator is in degree mode, okay? So if you're not in degree mode and instead you're for example, if your calculator has radians, RAD at the top, it's gonna give you an actual different answer. Okay, so you really want to make sure that every time you're using your calculator, especially in trig, that you're in degree mode. Now, in example 2, that's where we get into something a little different. Okay, we're actually in this case looking for the angle. So we're given, numbers on the other side of the equal sign, and we're trying to find angle A there. And it's very similar to how we've done everything in the past. When we're trying to isolate, we're going to be moving something over to the other side. And in this case, when we move it over to the other side, it becomes what we call the inverse of sine, okay? And the way that's shown is with that little -1. So and the same thing with cos. So if I was to bring this over, angle B is gonna equal the inverse, okay? And then whatever the number is. Now, same thing for your calculators, it's gonna depend on your calculator. For a lot of people, they're gonna have to press the second function key first and then their cos button, because you'll see you have your cos button on the calculator and then right above it is your inverse. Okay, so when you press second function, you're actually gonna get that top value and then you're gonna be able to do multiply by 6/7. But you'll have to figure out your calculator in order to do that. So let's take a look at an example. So with these examples, you're gonna do the same thing as we did yesterday. Label your triangle first. I cannot stress the importance of labeling your triangle first, okay? And it's always based on the angle given. And so even though we don't have a measure of the angle here, this is still the angle that we're looking for. So this is the angle that we're working with, which means if I draw my arrow from the angle, that's gonna lead me to my opposite side. Drawing my arrow from my right angle leads me to my hypotenuse, and then finally leaves me with adjacent. Then I look at, okay, what have I been given? I have a 12 and I have a 13, which is my adjacent side and my hypotenuse side. So looking at SOHCAHTOA, which one has A and H? Cosine has A and H. So that's going to tell me my formula, cosine equals A over H. I plug in what I have, and then I'm gonna solve for the angle, okay? Now, as I said before, I don't have a calculator here at home, unfortunately. Mine broke, and so my calculator's on my phone, and I can't obviously calculate while I'm taping a video. So what I will do is the same thing as yesterday. I will post pictures of the solutions of these entire sheets completely done. And then that way you can make sure that your calculator is giving you the same answer that I'm getting, okay? Let's do one more of those. So circle the angle you're